So what is the method to this madness, and what is its purpose? What are we doing exactly? And what is it we are starting to experience, perhaps, inside, as we give ourselves a fair chance to give a fair trial to a real deep, albeit quirky, meditative practice. In the modern world we live in today, particularly in the West, many meditative techniques are there, and many meditative teachers are there. And the word meditation is used and thrown around very loosely in many cases. It is a word which, when broken down, can be found all over the place. We don't have to let our mind wander very far to see what is inside that word. A lot of things, including medicine and media. So, without going into etymological discussion, we certainly know that if we're dealing with that word, we're dealing with something important in life and in our understanding. And as I said, there are many techniques, so therefore we cannot sit and say from here that any one of them or group of them are any such thing in any sort of quantifiable way. This is impossible. But one thing that I can iterate on to that understanding of the diversity and incalculable breadth of any ways and means and techniques of meditation in the modern world, I can say that in our modern world, particularly in the West, that much of the meditative techniques that people who seek meditation come across are those of the variety that I might describe as guided meditations. And when I use the term guided meditation, what I am referring to is a type of meditation where the meditative teacher uses verbal cues to get the meditator to relax, and then begins to describe in words certain images that they want the meditator to imagine in their imagination. And there's, of course, nothing wrong with this type of technique. I've done many of them before. I do not teach them very often, although I do. The meditation that I have benefited from in my life, and therefore the one that I teach primarily and work with, which is affiliated directly with all of the physical aspects of the yoga practice and the daily life itself, which is why it's what I teach. But it is more directly related to the direct experience of direct reality as we are directly experiencing it directly in the here and now directly, whatever that is, without the imagination. So if there is such a thing as an opposite to a so-called guided meditation, it would be this type of meditation, perhaps, which, of course, I didn't make up. It is only my little derivative and my way of spinning it and describing it, because it is ages old, it is as natural and as scientific as Mama Nature herself. And it is the awareness of our body and our breathing. But why is the awareness of our body and our breathing so important, and why is it seemingly so linked to such terms as psychology and spirituality and metaphysics and yoga and God? And what is it about the body and the breath? What are we doing when we're trying to do what the teacher says? It seems so simple, but yet it is so hard to do. All we're trying to do is concentrate on being alive. And when we actually, with intention, stop for a day to do that, we realize there's difficulty in that, and I was not doing that as often as I thought I was. It is inevitable that we come to this realization in ourselves, that I am not as self-aware as I thought I was, or perhaps should be, now that I am having this realization. This is perhaps a realization that one could have if one gives fair trial to such a method, which is nothing new. Every yoga teacher is doing it on a level. Every time they get together with a group of people on mats and they take a big deep breath and exhale, this is the same thing. All we're trying to do is go deeper with it, more subtly and longer and more extended, and try to understand why and what and who. And so let's take a look at that for a moment. And I'll try to be brief today, because if we are sitting and we are walking and we are standing and we are moving and we are breathing, or rather, if I may rephrase, if I am standing and I am walking and I am moving and I am breathing, who is I? Who am I? Who is that? What is that? And if I'm supposed to be observing my breathing, my sitting, my walking, my standing, and soon our eating and our talking, interacting and our relating and our working and our resting and our giving and our receiving, if I am supposed to be aware of that, then who is the it that's being aware and who is the it that's doing it? Who is the me? Who is the observer? And this is, in very brief terms today, this is an understanding that we can come to more deeply through this meditative practice. The deepest question of all, which is, who am I? Who am I? What am I? And what is going on in this reality, this experience that I am in this body, which in my humble opinion is a very temporary one and not the only one. By far not the only one. And yoga, meditation, helps us understand that. What is the psyche? What is the body? What is the nervous system? How are they interacting? And culminating into such an experience that we are having. And how is our misunderstanding of those experiences blocked certain means of deepening into those experiences and therefore understanding them more properly? In one day, we hope and pray in one day to merely scratch the surface of such an understanding, a concept whereby we can only become hungry for more, to keep working at it with continued patience and continued persistence, to appreciate the possibility that if we can become more deeply aware simply of our body itself and how it feels in any given moment, no matter how mundane and no matter how painful and no matter how pleasurable, because in every one of those experiences, whether it's coming through the breath, the body, the mind, and all together in the emotions, which becomes this gestalt of human experience, through which meditation can teach us more. We see clearly through deepening of our meditative practice that all of those experiences, no matter how pleasurable, no matter how painful, no matter how mundane, none of them are going to last. They are always, always at some point going to pass away. And if we go even deeper with our understanding through meditative practice, we will also see and feel and hear and understand and comprehend and understand, if I may borrow a New Age term, understand that the perpetuation or the misunderstanding, the ignorance of that truth, which is the passing of that experience, the temporality of this very life itself, and the reason it is seeming to last, whatever that experience is, painful, pleasure, or otherwise, longer than we think it should, is because there is something in our mind that is holding on to it. And in our body and in our breath, through this meditative practice, we start to realize that it is the body that we are attached to, not the thought necessarily. The thought, as some yogis may describe, is attached to the body somewhere, perhaps, metaphysically so. But it is we that are attached to the body. And therefore, who is that we, as I spoke of earlier? Who is it? Who is the me, the I, that is experiencing and becoming aware and remaining aware of myself walking across a room, or sitting on the mat, or taking in a deep breath and feeling its movement and hearing its sound? What is that? Who is that? If I am observing that, then who is the observer? What is the observer? And what is the creature or the observer that is doing the breathing or the walking or the sitting and the talking and the living and the relating and the decision making and the giving and the receiving? On paper, the technique/method is so simple because to do it is so difficult. Because it is the quickest way to make us realize how easily our mind wanders away. And it makes no difference what day it is, what chapter of our life we are in, and what the contents of that wander might be. Because 99 times out of 100, you can take the content of such a wandering and put it into two categories, and it is the future and the past. The body and the breath is always here and now. And in the here and now, the depth of our psyche wants to be unleashed and understood and purged so that we no longer have to attach to it. This is how we heal the mind. This is how we calm the storm. By when we sit and when we walk and when we stand, we accept what we are experiencing, knowing that it is not going to last. For we are not this body, but the body is the temple of the living God, and the body is the key to our understanding of ourselves and who we are and what we are. The breath takes us between whatever void is still inside our mind and our body and our understanding. The breath is the bridge. The breath is the bridge. Every inhale, every exhale